Hey, welcome back. Angelos is here, and today we're going to see how to win easily in chess, to win very fast. We can start the game with this move e4 in order to liberate the diagonal for the bishop and for the queen. In order to checkmate, to win very easily, you should realize what is the weakest point in black's position. Of course, you can pause the video and try to think by yourself. And the weakest point is this one, f7. Why? Because only the king is protecting f7, and for that reason we would like to attack there and perform the checkmate. How to do that? We need two pieces in order to capture this pawn successfully, and in order to show you how to do it, we can develop the bishop, for example, in this diagonal to start attacking or aiming to this pawn. Of course, you cannot capture it immediately because the king is protecting this pawn, and after that we can bring another piece out, the queen for example, and now we have two attackers, and now white can perform the checkmate. This is the mechanism how to work. The queen is attacking the king and the queen is supported by the bishop. In a real game, the game can go like that. We can play e4, of course our opponent can play a normal move like that, e5, and after that white can play this move, queen h5. Now we are attacking the pawn. Of course, the best move here for black is to protect this pawn with this knight to f6, but another not very good move, and a lot of amateur people or very new people to chess play this move g6 in order to attack the queen. And this is a terrible move because you can capture on e5, and now we are attacking the king, and after that we are attacking the rook, and black will going to lose the house. Of course, you can play this in order to protect the king, but after that we can capture the rook on h8. For that reason he can play this, the very normal move, and after that white reinforce the attack, bring out the bishop to c4, and now he is threatening to checkmate. And usually players here can play this move, knight to f6, because he doesn't understand the threat, or he is focusing only on his plans, and now we can perform the checkmate with queen to f7. This is the very normal checkmate, and you can try this idea in your real games, and I'll provide you some more examples here. Of course, there are other moves here that black can play. If he realizes the threat, he can bring the queen out, for example. Now he's protecting the f7 twice with the king and the queen. He can play queen f6. This is another normal move, and of course black can do the same. He would like to play the queen here, the bishop to c4, and after that he can attack on f2 as well, because f2 is the weakest point on white's turn. And another good move is g6 now. Now black can play this move because the e5 pawn is totally protected. This is the best move in the position actually, because we are attacking the queen, protect the f7, we force him to go back, we control the center very well. This is the best move. And I'll provide you another move that this is not very good. This knight to h6. Of course, right now black is protecting the pawn with the knight, but the knight is not very safe there, because we can play this d4, and black can say, okay, I can capture a pawn for free. But white's idea was to open up this bishop. He can remove the defender, more advanced tactic. He can remove this knight, and after this recapture, white can perform again the checkmate on f7, and this is not very good. Of course, the best move, as I mentioned, is g6, because we are attacking the queen. The normal move is to retreat, and be careful because white is threatening again to checkmate here on f7. And here we have some good options. He can play knight to f6. Of course, this is very natural. If you are afraid of the queen, you can play queen to f6, because you are threatening to exchange queens right now. And not only that, you are protecting the pawn, threatening to exchange queens, and of course to jump here on d4. White can play here c3, for example, in order to stop this move knight to d4, and after that black can capture here, knight will recapture, bishop g7, short castling, and knight to f6, and everything is very normal here. And this is for very beginner players, but if you are more advanced player and you would like to learn something trickier or more aggressive here for black, you have a very good option, and this option is f5. And this is a pawn sacrifice, because you're sacrificing the pawn, but the idea is to stop this checkmate on f7, and after the normal move e takes f5, you have this jump to d4. Now you are attacking the queen, but not only the queen, similarly you are attacking the c2 pawn. And if you imagine that the knight will land here on c2, then you are attacking the king and the rook. So the queen is under attack, and a normal move here is queen to g3. Of course you can play queen to e4. This looks very natural because he is threatening again to capture on g6, he is threatening e5, he is protecting c3, but after d6 black is sacrificing the pawn and he is ready to create very strong threats. For example, he is threatening now to capture the pawn with the bishop on c5, and after this f takes d6 we have two good moves. One of them is bishop to f5, this is a good move, and an alternative is knight to f6. Black is sacrificing pawns in order to develop very fast, to restrict the queen to kick her away, and after that to capture on c2. And now white is in big trouble. For that reason he should not go after e takes f5, knight to d4. One option is to go on e4 as we mentioned, and another option is to go on g3. And this is another interesting move because now he is threatening a lot of things. He is threatening again this pawn on e5, he is threatening to capture on g6, and after that to play g7 in order to fork the pieces. This is a very interesting move. And here we can play d5. We are attacking the bishop, and you may think here what will happen after this. Queen takes e5 because the king and the rook is under attack. But of course we have this move, queen e7, pinning the queen in the e file, and now he cannot capture the rook on h8 because his king will be unprotected. He can capture on e7 in knight takes e7. Now we are protected this pawn and threatening the bishop. He should go back, of course, and after bishop to f5 we are a pawn down, but we are threatening here on c2, and black have fantastic development and a lot of threats. Of course this is for more advanced players. If you familiarize very well with white pieces, then you will know how to respond in this early attack. And if he captures here on g6, this is an alternative, and in chess we have a lot of alternatives. We can capture on the bishop, and now he can play g7. Of course we can capture this pawn because our rook and bishop was under attack, and after queen takes d7 we may think that the rook on h8 is lost. But we have a very typical technique here in order to protect everything, and you should remember that. And the technique is to play the queen on f6, and now the queen is protected by the knight. This is, black pieces are very good organized, and the queen is protecting the rook, so everything is clean, everything is fine here. We would like to we are threatening to exchange queens, and of course this pawn on c2 is under attack. He can capture here, knight takes f6, and after knight to a3 we can develop normally, bishop to f5, and we have fantastic compensation here because we are threatening to capture back the pawn. We lead in development, and black is very good. Of course the better player will win the game, and I'd like to show you some examples from top players. One of them is Hikaru Nakamura, one of the best players in the world, and he played this opening system with queen h5 and bishop to c4 sometimes with against very good opponents, against grandmasters. And black play correctly here, knight to c6, bishop c4, g6, everything is normal, queen to f3, renew the attack against f7, and after knight to f6 he played knight e2. He would like to stop here the knight to jump on d4, and then he can develop normally his pieces. The good thing about this attack is that you may like to win very fast. Okay, this because you can checkmate the opponent in 4 moves. But if this didn't happen immediately, then you can continue normally to play the game. Your position is not destroyed at all. You can continue play normal chess, and of course you will have more options in the middle game. If we skip some moves, here is the same game, and he played now e5. You see he's attacking the knight on f6, and the knight goes back, and after that he played d4, and he have a small initiative here because he has better pieces with more prospects. He can attack in the king side, he can regroup the knight to c5, he have some ideas. The game end up in the draw, but it doesn't matter so much. And he played another game against another very strong player. We have the same moves, and if we move forward, we have here the complicated middle game position. He managed to stabilize and to control the center. He's attacking b7 pawn right now, and in this particular position he played the move rook to g1. This is not the best move. He created some attack, but he didn't manage to succeed to take the full point. The better move here was long castling, and now you will have a trick here because black cannot capture on c2, because you may think that we're attacking the rook and we're attacking the queen, and it seems that white will lose some material, but we have this check on d5, and this is a deadly check because we're attacking the king. We saved our queen, and now we will recapture the bishop on c2, so white is winning. Another move here is to c6, for example, and after that we can play rook h to g1, and after queen to because here we play this move, and now we're threatening to capture here on h6, because this pawn is unprotected. Bishop cannot recapture here because it will expose the king under attack. Queen f6 in order to protect the h6 pawn, and now we have queen h5, and white have a very good initiative. But Hikaru played this move rook g1, a normal move. Okay, it's okay, and he didn't manage to win the game. And let's see some more examples. He played with the same opponent, and he played a very interesting game again, and now we have this position. He played knight to d4, a very nice move because he's threatening a double check here on f5, and the bishop here cannot capture the knight because this rook on a8 will be undefended. For that reason, he removed the rook on b7, and white capture here on b7. Bishop takes d4, rook takes d4, rook takes b5, and now he had this rook e7 check. King h8, and now he played a very nice move. And of course, you're very welcome to pause the video and try to think. And the move is rook to d6. Now he is threatening the f6 pawn. He played this, king d6, in order to protect this pawn on f6, and now white continue his attack. What are you going to play here with white? And during the game he played this very nice move, bishop to c4. This is a fantastic move. It's not the best move in the position, but you can see that even the best players in the world doesn't play the best moves all the time, but he is playing very strong moves. The idea is to give a check here on f7. The best move is to give a check on f7, and this is a faster checkmate, but this is strong as well. Bishop c4, rook b7, we give a check here on d3, king h6, and now we can perform a checkmate in one move. Can you find it? And this is rook takes f6. Be careful that it could be a checkmate motive because we're attacking the king cannot capture the rook, cannot go anywhere, but he has this rook here on b7, he can capture our rook. For that reason, the checkmate is here with rook takes f6. And you may wonder, only Hikaru played this move? No, not at all. World chess champion Magnus Carlsen used it in World Rapping Championship in 2018, and he played the same moves. And after knight to f6, he played bishop to c4, he's threatening checkmate, g6, the best move, queen f3, renew the attack, queen e7, and another option to defend this pawn on f7, knight e2. This is very normal because we are developing. You see that the knight would like to go on f3, but the queen is there. For that reason, we develop the knight on e2. We are protecting this d4 pawn and continue normally. Knight f6, d3, bishop g7, knight b to c3. Everything is very normal, and now white would like to play bishop to to g5 in order to pin this knight, and after that to jump on d5. This is ideas, and for that reason the black player, a strong player, played here h6, and after d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, attacking the knight. He played here knight a5, and now it's white's turn. What are you going to do here with white? It's a very interesting position, and I'm providing this game for this particular moment. I like this particular moment. What are you going to do with white? And he played this move d6. This is a very nice move, and the idea behind it is if you capture with the queen here, you leave unprotected the f7, again the weakest point, and after that you can give a check, attacking the king, attacking the bishop, and we will win material. For that reason he recaptured with the pawn, and now he played bishop to d5, and he has positional compensation because we exert a lot of pressure on b7, the knight on a5 is out of the game, we develop our pieces normally, and everything looks just fine. He played the knight on c6, bishop d2, queen f6. Of course he didn't exchange queens because he would like to win the game. Queen e4, sword castling, knight e7, and knight to c3, queen f5, and queen b4. He captured here, the knight recapture, and you can see that he has a lot of problems. For example, now he is threatening. If you play a move, a no-sense move like this one, a6, then we can deliver a double attack, and we are threatening the king and queen. If he play, of course the d6 pawn is under attack, and you may wonder what will happen after queen e6. And now we have another tactic, and this is knight to c7, because we're attacking the rook and queen. Black cannot protect everything. For that reason he played this, queen f7, and after this knight to c7, Carlsen played this move, knight c7, the rook is under attack, rook b8, queen takes d6, and Carlsen gain back his material, and unfortunately he lost the game afterwards, but right now he has a very, very good position. And this is all about this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I put it once again, and the weakest point in black's position is f7. Why? Because only the king is protecting this pawn. How to attack this pawn? With the queen, we will bring out the queen here on h5, we're attacking the pawn on e5 and the f7 pawn. He can play knight to c6 in order to protect this pawn on e5, and after that we'll bring the second piece on c5, and now we're attacking again this pawn on f7. And of course he should protect this pawn somehow, because if he plays this move, knight to f6, then we can deliver this checkmate in 4 moves. I hope you enjoyed this video, thank you very much, and see you soon.